In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this modest V-neck kaftan. To start off, we're going to need some measurements. So you'll need a measuring tape, and we're going to start by measuring from the shoulder to the bust line, then to the waistline, then to the hip line. Then you're going to measure how long you want the kaftan to be. Now you're going to need the actual measurements of your bust, your waist, and your hip. I'm using these measurements as an example, but this is where you'll plug in your own measurements. I'm using 3.5 yards of fabric, and the width of my fabric is 44 inches. So when you go to the store, make sure you read the bolt and pay attention to how wide the fabric is, because that's going to determine how wide your kaftan will be or how long your sleeves will be. Now, to determine how much fabric to purchase, multiply the desired length of your kaftan by 2. And then you're going to translate that into yards, but make sure you purchase a little bit extra just to be on the safe side. Now we're going to take the fabric and we're going to fold it in half, raw edge to raw edge. And if you have a print on your fabric, make sure that the front sides are facing. You should have 2 layers after it's folded. You're going to fold it again, but this time selvage to selvage, and you should end up with 4 layers. Here's a demonstration on a piece of paper. When you fold it the first time, that's how you get your front and back panels. And then when you fold it again, that's how you are going to make sure that you evenly cut everything. So you should have a fold right here on the front. This is going to be the neckline area, and this is going to be the shoulder seam. Starting at that top fold, you're going to measure the neck width at 3.5 inches, the back neckline at 2 inches, the front V neckline at 4 inches, and then you're going to measure the shoulder slope at 1 inch on the open end. And then you're going to measure how long you want your kaftan to be plus 1 inch seam allowance. I'm going to demonstrate all of this on paper, but no worries, we're going to do this on fabric as well. I just like to make my videos as beginner friendly as possible. So as you can see, we have the back neckline, the front V neckline, and the shoulder slope. And when we get ready to cut it out, you want to make sure that you cut out the back neckline first, then the shoulder slope. Then you're going to remove that centerpiece and then cut out the V-neck. So that's going to be our back panel, and that's going to be our front panel. So I'm going to be using chambray cotton. It looks like denim, but it is extremely lightweight. The selvage end on my fabric has a frayed detail, so I don't need to hem the size of my kaftan. I really like this detail, so I'm just going to leave it as is. Alright, so before we start marking down those measurements, I'm going to cut the length of my kaftan. Here I'm just putting down some pattern weights just to hold my fabric in place. And we're going to begin marking down those measurements. The neck width was 3.5 inches. The back neckline was 2 inches. The front V neckline is 4 inches. And the shoulder slope is 1 inch. All of these measurements are going to be connected at the neck width. I'm using a freehand curve to connect the back neckline. I'm using a slanted line to connect the front V neckline, and another slanted line to connect the shoulder slope. And as I stated before, we're going to cut out the back neckline first, then the shoulder slope. And then we're going to remove that centerpiece so that we can cut out the front V-neck. I'm lining up the shoulders. Then I'm going to put down my pattern weights and cut out that V. To stabilize the neckline, I'm going to be using some bias tape. The one I have is 1/2 inch wide, and it's single fold. They also have the double fold if you would like to use that instead. So I'm going to make sure that I open up that first crease, and we're going to pin it along the edge of the back neckline, making sure that I follow the curve. Now, if you have a print on your material, you want to make sure that you're pinning along the front side of your fabric. I'm basically doing the same thing for the front V neckline, but I'm going to stop right there at that point. I'm not going to pin no further than that, and I'm also going to put a mark there so I know where to stop sewing. And right here, I'm just prejudging how much of the bias tape that I need. I'm just going to cut off the excess. Always make sure you back stitch at the beginning and the end to lock in your stitches. Now, as we sew the bias tape onto our fabric, you want to make sure that you sew directly into that crease. So we have the front V neckline here, so I'm just going to sew up until that point. cut off these loose threads, and then we're going to manipulate the bias tape to go towards the other side. So I'm going to start by folding it back on itself, creating a straight edge right there at the point. I'm going to give it a quick finger press, and then I'm going to fold it back on itself to make sure that the edge lines up. Then I'm going to go ahead and pin it in place. And you want to make sure you start sewing right where you left off at. And you're going to see if you mess up, it's okay. It's an easy fix because I messed up, and I'll show you what I did to fix it. So like I said before, do a back stitch to lock in your stitches at the beginning and the end, and you're going to sew directly in that crease. So now I'm going to show you that I didn't necessarily line up my stitches perfectly, but like I said, it's an easy fix, and I'm going to show you that in a little bit. I also forgot to make a small cut in this area without snipping the thread, so go ahead and do that. Go ahead and press the seams on both sides. Don't worry about the middle part just yet. Then you're going to go ahead and fold it under. And right here at the V, you can see how mine is not going to fold over completely. So I had to pop a couple of stitches just to get it to fold over and for it to be flat. That snip at the point that I forgot to make is what's going to help the V-neck to relax. It's going to take a little bit of time to kind of finesse it. So once you get it folded under, go ahead and give it a press. And as you're pressing, try to make sure that you don't press out the creases in the bias tape. And now you're going to sew along the bottom edge. Once you get to that V point, you're going to leave your needle in the down position, raise your presser foot, rotate the fabric so that you can continue sewing on the other side. So this is what it should look like so far. And for the back neckline, we're going to basically do the same thing, but we don't have to do any stopping. We're just going to sew all the way through, but make sure we are sewing in the crease and also making sure that we are locking in our stitches. Go ahead and press the seam. Fold it under. Give it another press, making sure that you are not pressing out the creases of that bias tape. And then we're going to take it to the sewing machine and sew along the bottom edge. So now it's time to sew the shoulder seam. So you want to make sure that your fabric is right sides facing. If you have a print, pin it or clip it in place. And then we're going to take it to the sewing machine and sew those two panels together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. If you have a serger, I would recommend that you use that. ahead and turn your caftan right side out and then fold it in half, because we're going to go ahead and mark down those measurements. Now at this point, if you need to hem the size of your caftan, go ahead and do that. Or if you have a certain trimming that you want to add, go ahead and add it. So now we're going to go ahead and mark down the bust line measurement, the measurement for the waistline, and the hip line. We're going to do a little bit of math for the rest of the measurements. For your bust and waist measurements, you're going to divide them by 4 and add 2 inches for ease. For your hip measurement, you're going to divide it by 4, but you're going to add 3 inches for ease. On the open end, go ahead and mark 7 inches from the bottom so that we can add a small split. If you have trimming, or if you don't want to taper off your caftan at the end, you just want that butterfly effect all the way through to the end, mark 4 inches in and 7 inches up from the bottom. Here's a little demonstration on paper. When you get ready to mark down your measurements, you're going to be measuring from the folded side of the fabric, except for that split area that's going to be marked on the open end of the fabric. And then we're going to copy those measurements onto the other side, top stitch, and hem our caftan, and that's basically it. To help make sure that I copy my measurements on the other side accurately, I'm just going to place a little mark right there at the fold of my bust line, hip line, and waistline so that I can just continue those lines on the other side. So now we're going to open it up, and if you have a print on your fabric, it should be facing up. And then I'm going to pin those lines so that when I take it to my sewing machine, it doesn't shift on me while I sew. So basically we're going to be top stitching on top of the caftan. So go ahead and turn your caftan inside out and hem it. And that's basically going to be it for this modest V-neck caftan. I hope that this video was helpful and that it was very detailed and easy for you to follow along. And yeah, that's it.